The Safe Routes to Play planning framework that we've developed through the course of this effort is something that is easily replicable for any New Hampshire community. It's not rocket science to go out and find parents and talk with them and conduct a survey and go out and pound the pavement and go neighborhood to neighborhood to find out where children are playing, where they're not playing, and what the issues are with children getting from where they live to where they want to play within their neighborhood or within their community.
How do our youngest children get to the places that they like to go and that their families like to take them other than by car? Safe Routes to Play as a concept is how do they get there? And because we had done so much work with early care children, it made a tremendous amount of sense to say how, in the first few years of life, how can we begin building these patterns where you don't hop in the car and go to the park, and you don't hop in the car and go to your early care center. But it's a great opportunity for a child to walk with their parent or be in a stroller with their parent walking on a sidewalk or a pathway or some other way to get to those places, and building sort of a lifelong belief that the way you go places is on foot or on bike or whatever other strategy you have.
Through the course of our survey work with parents, we found that parents were recognizing a variety of problems with the way that the city's recreational and transportation infrastructure works today. Wherever a child has to cross a road, for instance, is always a challenge. So crossing any sort of significant road, parents are very concerned that the crosswalk infrastructure be as safe as possible, and that their children, whether on a bike or on foot, are separated from higher volume traffic roads, that they have that safe separation.
Lebanon's done a wonderful job with sidewalk infrastructure in the last 10 years. At the same time, to think about how we navigate from homes to places we go requires a complete pathway. If that pathway breaks down at any point in that process, then walking and biking and non-motorized transportation is impaired. So it really only takes one 40-foot stretch of sidewalk to not be built, or there's an example of a road in one of the neighborhoods near here where the sidewalk proceeds on one side of the street and then crosses to the other side of the street and then crosses back to the same side of the street several different times. So in order to make to walk from one end of that street to the other, you're engaging in 3 to 4 crossings of that road. Those all become barriers to transportation and push people towards what they perceive as safer travel via car. The other thing to think about when it comes to young children, and so 0 to 5, is that the people who design roads are 5.5 feet tall. And it's easy to forget to take into consideration what that world looks like when you're 2.5 feet tall. And the intersection where you can see you're entering a crosswalk with parked cars on either side, as an adult, you're tall enough to look over the hoods and look over the cars to see what traffic is coming. But if you're 4 years old, what you see is the bumper of the car. And from the standpoint of being able to navigate that roadway safely or that crosswalk safely, it's a completely different experience.
We've identified dozens of improvements, and they range. They range in scope and scale. So, for instance, in some locations in the city of Lebanon, there are signalized crossings of roads. Well, there are no traffic signals that have pedestrian countdown timers. This is one of the items that's outlined in the Safe Routes to Play plan, is how to make improvements there. And one of the things that we'll be doing is to install what's called a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, which is a pedestrian-activated crosswalk signal. So in other words, a pedestrian comes to the crosswalk, they push a button. There are strobe lights on signs on each side of the crosswalk. The strobe lights get drivers' attention. It's a step beyond just marking a crosswalk. You're now taking a proactive step to alert drivers that there is activity in this crosswalk. So these are the types of improvements that are outlined throughout the Safe Routes to Play plan in each of the 9 village centers of Lebanon. New Hampshire communities have made great use of the National Safe Routes to School program. Many communities in New Hampshire are already thinking along these lines. Lebanon's taken the next step in terms of the Safe Routes to Play project. But any community in New Hampshire could take that same next step. So I think we've broken some new ground here with the Safe Routes to Play project, but I think that it's something that, as the results are publicized and as Lebanon implements the recommendations of the Safe Routes to Play plan, other communities are going to look at that and say, yeah, that's something that we want to do in our communities as well. And I think that's really encouraging.